That morning, the sun had just climbed over the corrugated tin roofs and graffiti-covered walls of the barrio in East Los Angeles, a densely packed neighborhood on the city's fringe. The sound of cars with blown mufflers, the distant wail of sirens, and the metallic rattle of shopping cart wheels cut through the quiet. Amidst the chaos, a young woman with olive skin walked slowly, pushing an old, wobbly shopping cart piled high with plastic bottles and flattened cardboard. Her name was Maya, 22 years old. Her dark hair was tied back carelessly, her face smudged with grime. But if you looked closely, her eyes held something different. There was a hardness there, like someone used to seeing the world's rough side, but also a hidden tenderness. Like someone holding back a silent pain. Maya had been a canner for 3 years. Ever since her mother died and her father fell ill, she'd carried the family's burden. In their tiny, run-down apartment, there were only 2 of them, herself and her father, lying weak in bed from a mild stroke. Every day, Maya left before dawn, collecting cans, paper, scrap metal, anything she could sell at the recycling center. But beneath this simple existence, there was a huge secret no one knew. That morning, Maya was collecting cans near a small city park. A park security guard who knew her greeted her with a smile. "Mornin', Maya. Still at it, huh? You're incredible." Maya gave a thin smile. "Gotta, man. Gotta buy meds for my dad at home." Then she continued her work without much talk. She was known for being polite and rarely arguing. But there were strange whispers about her in the neighborhood. Some said Maya wasn't just a canner. People had seen her talking to strangers who came late at night into the narrow alley between the apartment buildings. Dressed sharply, some even looked like military or feds. But no one dared to ask. Around 10 a.m., everything changed. On the main street near the local swap meet, a sudden raid was underway by a group of LAPD patrol officers and detectives. They were looking for local gangbangers who had just shaken down a vendor and fled toward the neighborhood. Residents moved aside. Some vendors quickly closed their stalls. The police looked tense, and one of them, Officer Russo, was known for being aggressive and arrogant. He transferred from a tough precinct in Chicago 2 years ago, but his attitude toward the locals was always harsh. As the raid was happening, Maya, knowing nothing about it, passed by pushing her cart. One of its wheels got stuck on a cracked piece of sidewalk, making a loud crack that caught Russo's attention. "Hey, you! Stop right there," he yelled. Maya looked up, startled. "Why, yes, officer?" Russo strode over, looking her up and down with contempt. "Where are you coming from? What's in the cart? Maybe you're the one hiding our suspect in there, huh?" Maya froze. People in the area began to whisper. "Sir, I'm just a canner, sir." "It's just plastic and cardboard," Maya answered quietly. "A canner." Russo laughed mockingly. "That's an old excuse. Lots of you pretend to be poor to trick the police." He kicked Maya's cart hard. Cans and bottles scattered onto the street. The sound of breaking glass was sharp. Bystanders who saw it started getting angry but didn't dare speak. Russo stared hard. "If you don't cooperate, I'm taking you to the station." Maya looked straight at him. For the first time, her expression changed. There was a cold glint in her eyes that made Russo unconsciously take a small step back. However, Maya was still trying to maintain her cover. She bent down, picking up the scattered cans. "Sir, I'm just trying to make a living. Please don't destroy my cart. It's the only thing I have." But Russo got angrier, perhaps feeling his authority challenged. He grabbed Maya's arm roughly. "Don't fight me, you little. You're being detained. Let go of me," Maya shouted. People started recording with their phones. An older woman selling vegetables yelled, "Don't be rough, officer." She did nothing wrong. But Russo turned to the crowd and threatened, "You want to be arrested too?" The scene grew tense. Maya, pulled forcefully, finally stumbled and fell to the ground. At that moment, from a small, worn pouch on her hip, something glinted, a small, silver badge. Russo didn't see it, but one bystander saw it clearly. It wasn't an LAPD badge. In the center was an eagle and small text, almost unreadable from afar, Department of Homeland Security, Special Investigations. But Maya quickly hid the badge again before anyone else could notice. She stood up, looking at Russo without a trace of fear. "Sir, that's enough. I don't want to make a scene." But Russo shoved her hand away and kicked the card again. "You've got a lot of nerve, huh? Don't act innocent with me." In the next second, Maya moved fast. Too fast for a neighborhood canner. She caught Russo's hand as he tried to grab her collar, twisted it behind his back in a perfect armbar. Russo screamed in pain. In an instant, the service pistol on his hip was in Maya's hand. The crowd gasped. The other officers immediately raised their weapons. But Maya shouted firmly, "Lower your weapons. I am not hostile." Her tone had changed. It was commanding and steady, completely different from the quiet girl seconds before. In the silence, she opened her hip pouch and properly displayed the badge. Everyone froze. Russo's face went pale. A few seconds later, a black sedan with tinted windows and government plates stopped at the end of the street. Two men in plainclothes suits got out, walking quickly toward them. One of them nodded curtly to Maya. "Report, ma'am. Surveillance team is set. The target is fleeing through the West Alley." The cops and residents were even more confused. Maya looked at Russo coldly. "Now it's clear, Officer Russo. I am a collector. But I collect intel, not cans." Sino swallowed hard, his hand still aching from Maya's grip. Without another word, Maya released him. She then looked at the two men who had just arrived. "Let's move. Don't let the target escape." They moved quickly, leaving the stunned crowd and local police behind. Only the sound of Maya's damaged cart while rattling softly remained in the distance. A few hours later, the news spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. "That Canner girl is a federal agent," said a man at the local bodega. "No way. I see her here every day," another replied. "But that black car picked her up. They said she was intel." But Maya wasn't seen again that day. Her apartment was locked tight. Her father wasn't inside either. Only a small note was left on the door, handwritten. "Thanks for believing. Don't fear the uniform, but also don't bow to arrogance. M." That night, in a safe house in Glendale, Maya stood before a table covered in maps and photos. She was back in regular clothes, but this time without the mask of poverty. Before her, a man in a government suit, her superior, sat watching her. "Maya, you nearly blew your cover in the field," he said seriously. Maya looked down. "I know, sir. But if I stayed silent, there might have been victims." That cop was abusive, and the residents were terrified. "Intel officers can't react emotionally," the man replied. "But I understand. You grew up on these streets. You know how it feels to be the little guy." He paused. "Tomorrow, you have a new assignment. New target. But this time, be careful. You're on their radar." Maya nodded. Her eyes fixed on the map. A large red circle was drawn around the market area where she had been humiliated. Inside the circle, one name was written, the Baylor Serrano Crew, a disgraced ex-LAPD officer. And below it, a small note, suspect has internal PD corruption network. One known connection, Officer F. Russo. Maya stared at the note for a long time. The night breeze blew the curtain, making the room feel silent. She knew the next task would be more dangerous. But her heart was set. She looked out the window at the city twinkling in the darkness. "If they think a canner is just a canner," she muttered softly, "they have no idea who they're really stepping on." The next morning, LA was as busy as ever. But behind the roar of traffic and the bustle of the market, a silent operation was being planned. In the Glendale safe house, Maya sat with two teammates. Youssef, a quiet but sharp digital analyst, and Jenna, a field operative who had been posing as a food vendor at the market. On the laptop screen was the face of a man with a crew cut and a hard face, Baylor Serrano. The ex-cop fired for extortion who now ran an illegal shakedown ring targeting small business owners. "Baylor is slippery," Youssef said, typing quickly. He has people inside the local precinct. The last data shows the extortion money was transferred to an account belonging to someone named Frank Russo. Maya stared at the screen calmly. Officer Russo. The one who attacked me. Jenna nodded. Looks like he's not just an arrogant cop. He's probably one of the links between Baylor and other corrupt officials. In that case, Maya said, we start from the bottom. Baylor can hide, but money always leaves a trail. That day, Maya returned to the market. This time, not as a canner, but as a street food vendor pushing a small taco cart. Her face was still made up to look grimy, but now with different worn-out clothes. She pushed the taco cart, observing her surroundings. In the distance, several large men loitered around the stalls. One of them seemed to hand an envelope to a uniformed officer. Maya watched from afar, noting the time and the direction they went. She moved closer to the vegetable seller who had defended her yesterday. Ma'am, did that cop? The angry one. Come back today? She asked quietly. The woman looked left and right, then replied, quiet. He came, Mija. But not for a raid. He met with one of the market guys. I saw him get an envelope. After that, he went toward the back alley. Maya smiled slightly. Thank you, ma'am. Don't tell anyone, okay? She then pretended to set up her cart near that alley. While waiting, she pressed a small button on her bracelet, an audio recorder that was directly linked to her team. Yusef, back at headquarters, heard every sound from her location clearly. Before long, 2 men arrived. One was Russo in street clothes. The other, Maya recognized from the photos, Baylor Serrano. They stopped in front of a small house with a rusty iron gate. Got the money ready? Russo asked. His voice was low but clear. Yeah, but I don't want to split it like this anymore. My risk is huge, Baylor griped. You think it's easy protecting a guy like you? If it wasn't for me, you'd have been picked up ages ago. So just relax, your money's safe. As long as you don't talk too much. Maya held her breath. The recording was perfect. This was solid evidence. But before she could move back, another voice came from behind her. Hey, what are you doing there? A large man, one of Baylor's crew, approached. He looked suspiciously at Maya and her cart. You ain't from around here, are ya? Selling tacos, but your face is new. Maya smiled calmly. Just moved in, Jeef. Looking for a spot to sell. Liar. The man shoved the lid of her cart and saw several small devices inside, a mini camera and a signal transmitter. His eyes widened. What the hell is this? Maya acted instantly. She swatted his hand away, jumped back from the cart, and kicked the man's knee until he buckled. In a flash, 2 more men came from the opposite direction. The noise made Russo and Baylor look outside. Maya knew. Time was up. Yusef, their maid. Initiate Plan B, she said quickly into the small mic on her collar. Acknowledged. Extraction team is 3 minutes out, Yusef's voice replied. Maya ran toward the market, pulling off her apron and vendor's vest. Her movements were fast, practiced. People were shocked to see the taco seller transform into an agile woman sprinting between the stalls. Baylor came out of the house, his face furious. Get her. Alive. Russo stared, confused. In his gut, he realized that woman was Maya. He looked in the direction she fled, still carrying the recording device. Fear and shame mixed inside him. He kicked a stone in frustration. Maya ran to the end of the alley, but 2 thugs blocked her way. She spun, kicked one in the stomach, then dropped the other with an elbow strike to the neck. As another one came from behind, Maya grabbed a frying pan from a food stall and slammed it against the man's head, dropping him. Bystanders screamed and ran. The market turned to chaos. Suddenly, the roar of a large motorcycle was heard. Jenna pulled up on a black sport bike, wearing a black jacket and a full-face helmet. Get on, she yelled. Without a second thought, Maya leaped onto the back. They sped away, leaving the scene. Meanwhile, from the air, a drone piloted by Yusef recorded the panicked faces of Baylor and Russo in front of the house. A few hours later, in the safe house, Maya stared at the monitor. The video footage clearly showed the conversation between Baylor and Russo. It was enough to open a formal investigation, but something bothered her. She looked at Russo's face for a long time. "He's not just a perpetrator," she said softly. "Look at his eyes in this video. He's scared, not angry. Like someone being forced." Youssef turned. "You mean he's just a pawn?" "Could be," Maya replied. "I want to know who's really pulling the strings." That night, Maya went to a small field office in Burbank. There she met someone she'd known a long time, Agent in Charge Radner, her boss from before she went deep undercover. "Radner, I need access to internal affairs data. I suspect Baylor isn't the mastermind." Radner looked at her for a long time. "Maya, you know the risk? If you access those files without official clearance, you could be cited for protocol violations." Maya took a breath. "I don't care. If we stop here, all the evidence could be erased." Radner was silent for a moment, then nodded. "Okay. But you need to know one thing." Russo's name popped up again in a fund transfer report. "To someone higher up, Deputy Chief Pramana." Maya froze. Deputy Chief Pramana wasn't an unknown name. He was an LAPD official who often appeared in the media, known for being clean and decisive. But Maya had heard a rumor years ago. Pramana was Baylor's mentor before Baylor was fired. "So he's the one protecting this network?" Maya asked quietly. "Could be. And if it's true, we're not fighting thugs anymore. We're fighting the system," Radner replied. The next day, Maya was undercover again. This time, as an admin temp at a private security firm in a downtown skyscraper, a firm suspected of being linked to Pramana. With a fake ID and data prepared by Youssef, she managed to get into the records room. She found suspicious data, a multi-million-dollar contract for a public market security program, and at the bottom, a clear signature, Pramana Surya, project director. As Maya was about to photograph the document, the door flew open. Two men in suits entered. One of their faces was very familiar. "Officer Russo." Maya froze. Russo looked at her for a long time, then said quietly, "I know you're not an employee here. You came looking for me, didn't you? If you're smart, you won't dig any deeper, Russo," Maya said coldly. Russo shook his head. "You don't get it, do you? I can't get out. Pramana knows everything about me. Even my family. If I refuse, they'll kill my little sister." There was desperation in his voice. Maya began to understand. "So you were forced to cover for Baylor's crimes?" Russo looked down. "Yes. But I can't run either." Suddenly, footsteps approached from the hall. A large man with a calm face but sharp eyes appeared from behind the door. Deputy Chief Pramana himself. "So this is the one," he said with a cold smile. "The canner who's been causing all the trouble." Maya took a step back. Her hand moved discreetly. She pressed the silent alarm button on her watch. "It's over, sir. I won't be your puppet anymore," Russo suddenly shouted, his voice trembling. Pramana turned to look at him and raged. But at that moment, a tactical team burst in and subdued them both. A few hours later, at the DHS field office, Maya sat in an interrogation room with Radner. Her face was tired, but her eyes were still sharp. "Pramana and Baylor are in custody. Russo surrendered as well and is cooperating," Radner said. "You did it again, Maya. But you know this is just the beginning." Maya nodded. "As long as there are people abusing the uniform to oppress citizens, my job isn't done." Radner smiled. "Still want to be a canner?" Maya smiled faintly. "Of course. Sometimes, in the piles of trash, you find the real face of humanity." The next day, Maya returned to East LA. She wore her old clothes, pushing her cart as usual. The neighborhood kids greeted her. The market vendors smiled, relieved to see her back. She stopped for a moment at the bodega where the old men usually gossiped. "Hey, Maya's back. Haven't seen you in a while," one of them called out. Maya smiled. "Yeah, had to take care of some city business, you know?" They laughed, not knowing the real meaning. Maya looked up at the blue sky over the market, which now seemed calmer. In her heart, she knew the work wasn't over. But for that day, she chose silence and enjoyed the quiet. A week had passed since the arrest of Deputy Chief Pramana and Baylor Serrano. The case shook the LAPD and became national news. The media intensely scrutinized the behavior of rogue officers abusing their power. Maya's name never surfaced. Her status as a field agent remained classified. But internally, whispers about the canner who took down a high-ranking officer spread fast. Some were in awe, but many more were unsettled. Maya knew. The storm wasn't over. That morning, in a secret briefing room, AIC Radner stood before a digital map showing a much wider network. Pramana and Baylor were just a branch. We found other accounts flowing offshore, specifically to the Cayman Islands and Panama. There are indications of involvement from other high-level officials. Youssef added, we also detected encrypted chat logs between someone at DHS headquarters in D.C. and an overseas contact named Shadow. We don't know who, but the language used is similar to financial instructions. Maya stared at the screen. If there's really someone at HQ, this is out of our hands. Radner looked at her seriously. Which is why you can't be reckless. After the incident at the security firm, there's an internal mole looking for your identity. They want to know who the canner is. It's too late, Maya said quietly. I felt someone following me yesterday. A black sedan, no plates. Passed my safe house twice. The room went silent. Radner took a breath. We're moving you tonight. Youssef, prepare an evacuation route. But Maya looked at them with a hard gaze. No. I'm not running. If they want to come, I'll face them. Maya, Radner started, I've lived on the streets since I was 12, sir. I know what it feels like to be hunted. But this time, I'm the one who will be hunting them. That night, Maya went alone to her old apartment in East LA. The small, thin-walled apartment was quiet, lit only by the glow of a street lamp. In the corner, a framed photo of her late mother still hung. Maya sat on the floor, staring at the photo for a long time. Mom, she whispered, you always said, don't be afraid to fight the powerful, but don't forget to stay human. Sometimes I'm scared, Mom. This world is getting dirtier, and I'm starting to forget who I am. The door creaked softly. Maya's hand instantly went to the folding knife in her pocket. But the person who appeared was Russo, his face weary and his eyes haunted. Relax. I'm not here to hurt you, he said quietly. I just need to talk. Maya stared at him. You're still in custody. How did you get out? Russo sat on the floor, keeping his distance. I was released on conditional bail. They need my testimony. But I know that's just an excuse. Someone inside wants me quiet. Who? Russo shook his head. I don't know for sure. But they already know you're alive and active. They said the canner has to be erased before the internal hearings begin. Maya was silent. Maya, they won't stop. If you keep fighting from the inside, you could die, Russo said softly. If I stay silent, more people will die because of them, Maya answered firmly. Russo looked down. I know you're right. But be careful. The world you're fighting isn't just uniforms and ranks. It's money, politics, and power. The next day, at the internal affairs hearing for Pramana, somehow, key evidence vanished. The video recording of the conversation between Baylor and Russo, Maya's recording, was suddenly corrupted. Youssef reported with a pale face. All the files on the server were hacked. The logs were wiped. Even our encrypted backups are gone. Maya clenched her fists. There's a traitor in our unit. Radner looked at her. I know someone who can help us. Sam Knight. He's retired from the director's office in D.C., but he still has access to old data. Only one problem. He lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico, completely off the grid. Maya immediately stood up. I'll go there tonight. Alone? Yes. If I bring a team, they'll know. Radner looked at her for a long time, then nodded. All right. But be careful, Maya. This is no longer an official mission. The overnight Greyhound bus ride took hours. Maya sat in the corner, wearing a worn-out hoodie and a cap, staring out the window. Every rest stop they passed felt like a shadow of her past. Quiet, but full of meaning. She thought of her mother, her father still lying sick in a secret care facility, and her teammates. She wasn't a superhero. She was just a young woman whose courage happened to be greater than her fear. When she arrived in Santa Fe in the early morning, Maya went straight to Sam Knight's house on the outskirts of the city. The old man greeted her politely but warily. "I've heard a little about you," he said, pouring hot tea. "You're the woman causing the uproar back in D.C., aren't you?" Maya smiled faintly. "It wasn't intentional, sir. I'm just doing what's right." Knight chuckled. "I used to think that way too. But what's right is often dangerous when it touches powerful people." He then opened a small safe and took out a stack of paper files. "These are old documents from a classified audit. Pramina's name and several other officials were mentioned 3 years ago. But this report was buried. Someone high up was protecting them." Maya stared at the last page, where one name was written that made her blood run cold. AIC Radner. She froze. "This has to be wrong." Knight shook his head slowly. "I don't know how deep this goes. But you have to be careful. Sometimes the traitor is the person you trust the most." That afternoon, back at a simple motel near the highway, someone knocked on Maya's door. When she opened it, no one was there. Just a manila envelope on the floor. Inside was a photo of her at the market during the first operation against Russo, complete with a red stamp reading, "Priority Target. Erase." And in the bottom corner, a small digital signature. The same symbol Radner used on all official documents. Maya closed the envelope slowly. Her hand was shaking, but her eyes were cold. That night, Maya sat on the motel balcony, watching the street grow quiet. Yusef contacted her on a secure line. "Maya, where are you? Your signal is weak." "I'm away," she said flatly. "It's chaos here. This morning, our field office. Someone set a fire. All the data's gone." "Maya, Radner is saying you're the one who leaked the location. He's saying you're the mole." Maya froze. He said, "I'm the traitor." Now it was all clear. There were 2 games being played. One on the table and one in the shadows. And she was caught in the middle. "Yusef, don't trust anyone. Not even me. Secure yourself." "I'll finish this myself," she said quietly. Maya, click. The line went dead. A few hours later, a black sedan pulled up to the motel. 3 men in dark suits got out, walking quickly toward Maya's room. But the room was empty. Only an open window, a curtain fluttering in the wind, and a piece of paper left on the bed. Truth can't be killed. Far away, on a bus heading east, Maya sat silently, wearing a gray hoodie. Her face was calm, but her eyes held a storm. She opened a secure phone and typed a new message to someone she only called Eastern Shadow.